Here's the podcast episode you've been waiting for. A nutrition expert, a women's weight loss expert weighs in on The Biggest Loser documentary. Okay, so Netflix puts out this 3-part documentary series on The Biggest Loser. I binge watched all 3 episodes. The Biggest Loser, just in case you didn't know, was a reality show from the early 2000s where very, very overweight people were brought onto the show. They went away to the ranch. They worked with celebrity trainers. They were kind of sequestered in a house together. They also did a lot of really, I forgot about this part. They did a lot of really goofy and demeaning challenges because they had to gamify this to make it interesting for TV. This was the early era of reality TV, and it was pretty pure, pretty raw. We were really experiencing these very overweight people, their feelings, their struggles, their experience on the show. It was a lot less polished, I think, than a lot of modern reality TV is, which is good. I used to watch this show, and this is before I was even a nutritionist. I was basically an overweight pre-diabetic girl, watching these people who were metabolically unwell and very overweight having this incredible success and just feeling so proud of themselves. And I remember just crying every time. I watched this show religiously because I loved it so much. I thought it was so inspiring. Now, I don't know why I loved it. I had to reconcile this a lot because in the Biggest Loser documentary, they interview a couple of people who are in the obesity medicine space and the body positivity space to kind of get a sense of like, why were people so enraptured by this show? And it probably comes down to the fact that we do value thinness at all cost, and a fat body is bad and needs to be fixed and repaired. And then this was this dramatic transformation. So, oh my goodness, yay, these very, very overweight people are finally getting their chance to have an appropriate body. So there's a lot of programming there too. I'm trying to reconcile this in my own brain. Like, why did I like it so much when I watched it? Well, that's because I had a little thin programmed brain. Everyone's got to be thin. These fat people on the TV have to get thinner or else they're going to have a really hard life. And I think overweight people do have a hard life. And when I used to watch The Biggest Loser, I often thought about my mom, who was a very, very overweight woman, hundreds of pounds overweight. She was also diabetic. She had a lot of other health issues that kind of were the comorbidities of diabetes. And she ultimately died of a heart attack. This is much later after Biggest Loser. But watching my mom battle her body, growing up battling my own body, and then watching a TV show where battling your body was the whole premise, I think it felt reasonable. It felt appropriate. Like, of course, we're going to do 8 hours of cardio a day to lose weight. What else would you do? What was really interesting in the documentary, just on that point, was that it was known in the production of the show that diet was the most important factor for fat loss. It was known, but watching people eat a healthy diet is not interesting TV. By the way, eating a healthy, metabolically supportive diet is not very interesting. It's very, very unexciting. So it doesn't make for good TV, but watching people throw up on a treadmill is more interesting TV. So there's a little bit of calculation there. That's why the trainers were so prominent. They were the celebrities of the show. They were so in your face and so polarizing because the trainers, the exercise, the throwing up, the sweating, the crying, the falling down, the hurting yourself, that was more interesting TV than watching people just kind of eat less. Now, they were eating really very little calories. According to the documentary, there's a lot of disagreement between the main doctor on the show and the trainers. And the doctor said, you can't have these people eating fewer than 1,500 calories, but the trainers were having them eat 800 calories. There's a lot of ridiculous infighting. I think to me that points to some problematic stuff inside the health and wellness industry. Like the health and wellness industry, influencers, trainers, coaches are telling you to do stuff way, way out of their scope of practice. A doctor is saying, from a medical perspective, we can't have these very metabolically dysregulated people starve and exercise. And the trainers were like, F it, eat less, move more, and just punishing these people. I took a lot of like textured takeaways from this documentary because it reminded me of how I felt about bodies and how I felt about exercise and diet back in the day, back in the early 2000s. Man, what an era. The 90s and the early 2000s was the era of thinness at all cost. And The Biggest Loser was the embodiment of this. Punish yourself into the ground because you're too fat. And even normal sized people like me and maybe you have felt that way. Now, I don't really know who's listening to this. I can tell you that most of my clientele over the years have been women with somewhere between, call it 20 to 40 pounds to lose. So a little bit overweight. Maybe call this like 2 pant sizes they'd like to get down. The biggest loser is more people who have hundreds of pounds to lose. Part of me really feels called to working with that population. A big part of me would love to work with women who have hundreds of pounds to lose, like my mom, because I think there are amazing moves we could make that are very metabolically impactful to people who have hundreds of pounds to lose, are most definitely metabolically dysregulated some way. They're pre-diabetic or they're insulin resistant or they're on the threshold of a chronic illness. I am generalizing. I'm inappropriately generalizing because there's actually a lot of healthy people that have hundreds of pounds of weight to lose. But from my perspective, I would feel very drawn to working with women who have lots of weight to lose, like the Biggest Loser competitors did. But I'm typically more often working with women who have a little bit of weight to lose, which is also very rewarding, and I enjoy doing it as well. What I was trying to get at here is saying the impact of simple dietary changes for fat loss cannot be overstated. Now, if you have a lot of weight to lose, that impact will be noticed more quickly. If you have just a little bit of weight to lose, that impact is going to be more slow. The deal is, and Biggest Loser popularized this, the speed of weight loss is really the goal. Now, in Biggest Loser world, it made for better TV. The guy gets on the big scale and he's lost 27 pounds in a week or whatever. And it's like, wow, that's crazy. And I mean, in the course of like a month, these people would lose 60, 70 pounds. It's just unreal, just absolutely unreal. But in real life, fast fat loss like that, it doesn't pan out. And in Biggest Loser, it didn't pan out either. The basic premise of this documentary in some ways, and in any article or any research that's come out about the Biggest Loser, has been, yeah, they lost the weight, but they all gained it back immediately. I mean, there was one woman who they interviewed on the documentary who, I think she won her season. And so she was the Biggest Loser. She lost a ton of weight. Whether she won the show or not, it doesn't really matter. She lost a ton of weight. And by the time she got off the show, so, you know, you're sequestered in reality TV land. So she was done filming and then she had to wait a couple days, then flew home and then, you know, whatever. By the time she got home, she'd already put 20 pounds back on because now she's eating normally. It just really speaks to, obviously, the concept of sustainability, which the Biggest Loser failed on. It got the weight loss, it got the dramatic weight loss, but zero sustainability built in there. And I don't know if when I was watching that show in the early 2000s and really loving it, if I even contemplated that. I actually don't think I did. In the early 2000s, I would have been in my 30s. I think much like a lot of the competitors. Now, I wasn't a very, very obese girl. I was just a couple pant sizes bigger than I wanted to be. I was a little fat and didn't want to be. And I think one of the reasons I was inspired was because it's like, man, look, you can lose weight. It can be done quickly. You have to just really put the hammer down and it's just got to suck. As long as it sucks, it can be done. Maybe my mom could do this. Maybe I could do this. I, at the time, was a fitness professional teaching fitness classes, and I probably applied that in some ways to the classes I was teaching. Like, let's just crush and kill ourselves. We got to get this done, right? The urgency of it all. And I don't think when I was watching the show, quite honestly, I don't think it even entered my mind that, oh, but is this sustainable? So I do think that modern us, we're thinking more about sustainability now. We are contemplating sustainability now. That's the only thing I think about now. The major shift I've had over the years is now I only care about sustainability. In fact, I think fast weight loss is a joke. If it's going fast, you're doing something weird that you can't sustain, like the Biggest Loser. Very weird. Okay, sure. Oh yeah, okay, go sequester yourself in a Malibu ranch for a few months and then come back and be skinny for 5 minutes. Nuts. Completely insane. We would never do that. That doesn't make any sense. But we're still applying that logic in some cases. I'm just going to do Optavia. Okay, Optavia, I'm going to throw it under the bus. Optavia is a weight loss plan where you eat these low-calorie prepackaged foods, and your total calories, I think, comes in at 1,000 or 800 a day because you're eating these prepackaged meals. Now, they send you the food in the mail. They're called fuelings, and there's a protocol you have to follow and a schedule, and they send you this food in the mail. And so you don't have to think about it. You don't have to make any decisions. They just mail you the food and you eat it, and then you're eating 800 to 1,000 calories a day. And so, of course, you're losing weight. I have conversations with women who tell me they're either deciding between me or doing another round of Optavia. And it's truly in their heads a major push-pull because Octavia's fast and miserable, which is what The Biggest Loser is and kind of what we're trained on. Fast and miserable. Get it done. It's got to move as quickly as possible. And I don't play in that space anymore. I think weight loss needs to feel easy, not hard. Biggest Loser was very hard. It got it done. It wasn't sustainable. I think weight loss needs to feel easy. It needs to fit into your life perfectly. There has to not be a big rearrangement of your whole life in order for this to work. And that's the only way weight loss will be sustainable, is if you're not rearranging your whole life. And this is why I hate food scales and tracking your food in an app, because I don't think you'll do that for your whole life. I just think there's a finite ability to do that. None of us wants to weigh our food until we're 93 years old. Like, it's not happening. Ridiculous. So why even start? If I was on The Biggest Loser, if we rebooted The Biggest Loser and I was one of the celebrity nutritionists, I would have everybody get up in the morning, take a walk, and then come in and eat a humongous breakfast. I would have them spend time thinking about why they think they need to shrink. I would have them work on achieving quieter cravings by being more well satiated. So we're craving less, we're snacking less, we're not hitting those hyperpalatable snacky poos as much, so we're naturally bringing our calories in a little lower. I would get these folks strength training for sure, just to develop lean body mass, which is a very metabolically active tissue, but not 8 hours a day. I'm talking 45 minutes every other day. These are untrained humans, so I'm not going to kill them. I would have them go to bed. I'd have them really explore circadian rhythm. I mean, if we're living at the ranch in Malibu, then we got nothing but time. We can roll with our circadian rhythms. But then we would also feather them back into their lives. Instead of just like, boom, you're on a helicopter heading back home to your family, good luck. We would have to have a reintegration phase. I mean, my version of The Biggest Loser would be like a 2-year program. You'd be following these people for 2 years. Did I just say 2 years? I did. I actually think, like, I know I keep extending this time horizon, but my program, for example, my weight loss program is 6 months long, because in 6 months, I do believe we can make some metabolic changes. We can change the way you eat to do all these things I just mentioned, reduce your cravings, reduce your snack habits, bring your calorie intake down a little bit, have some metabolic health improvements so your body's utilizing fuel better. I think we can definitely accomplish that in 6 months. And we can start patterning it into your life. But to get the real like momentum that you need to lose and ensure you've kept the weight off, you need to go through a couple years. I've been doing this for 15 years on myself. 15 years ago, I started my own weight loss program, and I'm still doing it now. And 15 years later, it feels pretty easy. It feels really, really sustainable. But I can't say it felt that way immediately. I don't think anything feels sustainable immediately. I think you have to do it for quite a long time. So my version of Biggest Loser would be a 2-year-long program following these people, and they would be losing, I don't even know. I don't think we'd even use the scale. I think on my version of Biggest Loser, there wouldn't even be a scale. So right out the gate, no one's watching, because they're going to try on the dress that's hanging in their closet. Okay, every month we're going to try on this dress and see if it fits a little bit. Can you get it on? Can you zip it up? Could you wear it? We're going to try on the same dress once a month for 2 years, until that dress is too big and you got to go donate it to Goodwill and buy a whole new wardrobe. Like, this is what I'm talking about. That'd be my version of Biggest Loser. Obviously, it wouldn't sell. It wouldn't be watchable. I mention this because even though The Biggest Loser is not on air anymore, you are still being marketed to in the exact same way. We saw the flaws in The Biggest Loser and we said, but it's a pretty good marketing hack. So you're still being sold crashy, dramatic, ridiculous weight loss programs that don't factor you in and are temporary at best. Don't fall for those. So I think what we can learn from The Biggest Loser documentary, I wasn't surprised by anything I saw there. There was nothing really titillating or amazing. It was like, yeah, obviously they starved people and it didn't work and the trainers were knobs and obviously it was a freaking garbage fire. But the one thing I think we can learn from it is, oh, it's still happening. Every aspect of what made The Biggest Loser a train wreck is still very present in the weight loss industry. And you're still on the receiving end of that marketing, advertising, and advice. And if you can learn anything from watching that show or even hearing my recap of it, just learn to transcend bullshit. That'd be great. That's a great life skill. Learn to transcend bullshit, especially in the weight loss industry, because there's just a lot of bullshit out there. Now, to summarize, nobody asked me to weigh in on my thoughts on the Biggest Loser documentary. But you know what? I guarantee I'm one of 1,000 weight loss coaches that's going to do this. So I'm just jumping on the trend early here. But the summary of it is, you don't need me to summarize this. You already knew this was a joke. The Biggest Loser was a temporary weight loss program that was sensationalizing dramatic weight loss for temporary means with no permanence baked in. And obviously it didn't work. And obviously it was terrible. And people got hurt. And people had long-term metabolic side effects. Everybody gained their weight back for the most part. Obviously, like, no one's surprised. But what you can take away from it is that even though we think we're so smart now, Biggest Loser, what a joke. No, the narrative is still out there. You're still being marketed to in the exact same way. And you still have that programming that wants it to be fast and dramatic. That's important to recognize in yourself and reconcile in yourself. You have programming that wants weight loss to be fast, painful, dramatic, horrible, brutal, punishing. You want to get it done. You will sacrifice your body to do it, but it doesn't work. What's the flip side? Take it slow, take it easy. It's got to feel comfortable. It has to fit into your life. My advice to you is do whatever they did on The Biggest Loser, do the exact opposite.